everyone, my name is Jared Lank. I'm an independent filmmaker based out of Portland, Maine, and today I'm going to be breaking down my current Sony FX6 build. About a year ago, I posted a video on my channel breaking down my Sony FX3 build. It was pretty well received by the community. I ended up getting quite a few followers from it and lots of comments about people appreciating the insight into building a camera like that. So about a year later, I finally got an FX6. A couple weeks ago, my local camera shop called me and said that my pre-order was in. So I figured I would go through the initial build that I did with it, since I've only had it for a few weeks, and talk a little bit about the decision making behind the components I chose to add to this rig, and talk a little bit about how I use it as an independent filmmaker that typically works, by myself or with just a couple other people on location for documentary filmmaking. So yeah, without further ado, I will tear this down and then start piece by piece kind of talking about my decision making. Okay, as you can see, this is the Sony FX6. No battery, but basically no top handle, no side handle, and I will quickly take off the lens just so you can see, how small it really is. I mean, it's just phenomenal how light it is. The lens I have on here right now too is the 16-35 f4 power zoom. It's super light. It weighs like just over 300 grams, and it's all internal zoom, so you can actually rig it up with a matte box mounted to your rails. And it's not gonna, move your matte box back and forth. And the power zoom function with the integration of a zoom rocker on the handles is just super fun creatively and also functionally. I'll do some B-roll really quick showing the FX6 just by itself, handheld, and just how it looks in the hand, how it looks straight out of the box. Let me throw on the side handle that it comes with really quick. This side handle is super ergonomic. I really like it. It's adjustable, so you can adjust the tilt of it on the camera. It's really secure when it is on there, and like I said, it has full functionality built into it. I don't see the need for using a third-party one at all, really, unless you were gonna put it on the left-hand side and use it for focusing. But at that point, I just feel like this one is so well built and so ergonomic that there's no need to really try to one-up it with a third-party one unless it's absolutely necessary. Let me just throw this on really quick. So it locks in and then just connects to this little grip plug on the side. So there it is with a small lens and a side handle. And like I said, as you click this lever on the top and pivot it, it will lock into place in different positions. So you can completely make it vertical depending on where your camera's positioned relative to your body. I love this for handheld shooting because I can just, put it into kind of like a pocket on my body. And then depending on how low it is, I can adjust how my hand is placed. And it just makes it really, really comfortable. I don't have a shoulder rig, but my understanding is that some of the shoulder rig setups allow you to use this handles like an FX9 out of the box, so that way you can have all this functionality down low with your camera up here. I'll probably get a shoulder rig in the next few months, and I'll do a video about that. Once I do, I'll probably get the Tilta one. Next up that comes with the FX6 out of the box is this really great top handle. It really doesn't need any further adjustment. Like it sits right in on the top of the FX6. I'll put it on before I put on the top plate for the actual build, just so you can get a sense of the form factor. One thing I like about it, again, is that it has all the same functionality as the side handle built into the top. So you have your zoom rocker, your menu thing, 2 custom buttons, and then a scroll wheel, record button, and a hold toggle. So it's really great. It also has these Sony like non-slip mount points for the monitor that comes with it. So this monitor is pretty cool. It has a tilt and swivel function. It's pretty solid. I know that you can't mount the Sony FX9 like EV adapter to it. I know that like CVP makes a kit that you basically retrofit this into a 15 mil rod connector onto the handle. Sounds pretty cool, but honestly, I'll probably get the port keys loop for this at some point, and instead of modifying the factory screen, I'll probably just keep it tucked on the back like how I have it here, just as a menu function kind of screen, and then I will run the SDI loop over where my eye would be. Yeah, let me actually just talk quickly, this is the same. So I did upgrade my shotgun mic. I currently use the Sennheiser MKE 600. That's what I'm recording this with right now. Otherwise it would be on here. And you just kind of have to use these rubber spacers that Sony sells, and some third-party people sell them because Sony ridiculously makes their shotgun mounts only for their own microphones. So you need an adapter to make them fit properly. And even with the spacer, it's still a little loose in there. So what you want to do is just put this and then use like black electrical tape to just kind of fill in the excess. That way you're not getting microphone wiggle. But this is the ECM XM1 that I did in my FX3 video. It's made by Sony and it comes with the original XLR module that was for the A7S series that goes in the digital hot shoe. It's a fine microphone. It actually is a short shotgun, so it looks really nice on these builds, and also functionally when you're shooting with a wide lens, it does work really well. It doesn't like occlude the top of the lens. It doesn't like get in the way of anything. So that's it. Like I said, it's extremely light, versatile. But yeah, I mean, this is good to go. Like with the battery that comes with it, has great battery life. Sony E-mount, just like if you're shooting on a Sony system, everything mounts up really, really well, super tight and secure. You know, one thing you could do out of the box too, I'm not trying to get ahead of myself here, but I do want to just mention it, is run an external monitor on the handle that comes with the camera, and that's what that would look like. So that's the Ninja 5, again, from my FX3 video. I use it on this now, and I'm gonna be ordering another Ninja 5 for the FX3. You know, this form factor is just fantastic. Like, you could just pop this in your backpack and pull it out and have a full cinema camera ready to go wherever you are. It's so, you know, for documentary, it's so sneaky, right? Like, you can get this in basically anywhere. Okay, so I did get ahead of myself a little bit. I'm gonna take this all off and then start putting the Tilta rig on so you can see what my final build looks like. So this is the Tilta top plate. The screws are in there, so I can't really tilt it too much. But there are a couple little things on here that make it really great. First of all, it has a screw mount point for the Sony kind of wire management system that comes with it. So, with the FX6, it's usually mounted to the top of the camera. You just take a little screw out and then mount it to this cheese plate for the top of the camera. I also have these SmallRig wire holders for the side, and I'll show you, I'll play some B-roll when I get to it, of how I run my HDMI on the side with this. But yeah, it just mounts to these top screw holes directly into the camera body, which is really great. And it connects also to the base plate that I'm gonna throw on in a minute, with this little side plate that it comes with. So it's really nice because you're getting so many points of contact with the actual camera body. This top cheese plate that Tilta makes is really good, and it's on par with all the other ones that you can order for this. I feel like they're all pretty synonymous with each other. And there is actually, speaking of cable management, on the top handle, there are these loops so that you can Velcro loop your cables to the handle a little bit better. And I'll do that at the end so that you can kind of see how I do that with my HDMI, just so everything's nice and tight knit on the top of the camera. And you know, it's not getting in your way, your hands are not gonna accidentally unplug something or what have you. So now I'm gonna mount the base plate for the FX6, and then I'm going to mount the side plate that connects the base plate to the cheese plate on top. So yeah, the Tilta base plate just connects to the camera again directly through two holes in the bottom of the base plate with screws. And these are kind of underneath where the Dovetail plate mount is for the base plate. I also have the Dovetail from my FX3 build that I'm going to show you in a second, that connects to all this so that I can quickly mount it to a tripod. So the base plate, I do just want to mention, it does, like I said, have the Dovetail locking mechanism that most Tilta base plates have. It has two 15mm rod attachments, and this cheese plate does actually come with two additional 15mm rod through loops that you can mount. I don't need them, so I don't have them on here. But the base plate does also have two rosette mounts on each side with multiple mount points. So if you wanted to put another handle or any other type of rosette mount directly to the base plate, you can do that. I don't really have a need for it, and it was kind of in the way of the OEM handle on this side, so I ended up removing it from one side. I kept it on this side just in case I need it like on set for something. So this is the next little piece of the cage that I really like. It's this little side mount that goes over just behind the handle of the FX6. It has, you know, all the little Core 20 and RA locating pin mounts on it, and then it just adds extra protection and bolsters out a little bit where all your ports are, your IO is, like your HDMI and your SDI and your time code in and out. I really like it just because it's added protection, and it does retain all of the labeling for your IO on the back, and it has a cold shoe mount that I use for my wireless too. This is also where you would mount your wireless transmitter, like your Teradek or what have you. This kit, I don't use it because I'm not using a wireless transmitter often, but it would mount to this, and then it would sit behind your handle on the rig around here, right next to your, you know, all your ports. So that's really nice. I'm just gonna throw this on really quick. Like I said, this just basically mounts to the base plate and cheese plate on top and just kind of unifies the cage around the camera body. I think it's a nice touch. It's nice to have just the option to take it all off too if you want. Like if you just need the cheese plate, you don't need a base plate or the side plate for your wireless transmitter. It's just a really nice option to be able to tear down weight and just keep some of the functionality of the cage without it being an actual unibody or uniform type build. So, okay, so this is the camera with the base plate, cheese plate, and the side mounting plate that unifies the build around the camera body and the side handle. I left my 15mm rods in here just because they basically live on this base plate now. You don't need to use, these are 12-inch ones, and these are just left over from the FX3 build where the V-mount would mount on the back of these rails on the camera. The V-mount battery plate that comes for the FX6 actually doesn't use that type of 15mm rail mounting system. It actually mounts inside of the battery port on the back of the camera here. If you look in there, you can kind of see where the battery goes inside the body. It's cool that it offers that, but at the same time, it would be nice. I guess you could technically just push the rails back, put a traditional 15mm rod plate on the back and run it that way. So this is the Tilta V-mount plate that goes on the back of the camera. Like I said, it kind of goes into the camera and locks in where the stock battery would go, and then connects to the camera for battery power through the little 12 volt at the back. It does have a little light indicator, has a couple DTAP ports on it, and it's really nice. I think it builds out the back of the camera really well and mounts super secure. It also has a little screw that connects it to the cheese plate on the top. So again, more unifying connections on the entire build so that it is more stable. For a V-mount battery on this build, I ended up ordering the new SmallRig 99 V-mount battery, micro V-mount battery. It's really great. I had a Watson Pro 98 that I'm running on the FX3 right now, and they're basically the same battery. The SmallRig is just a little more aesthetic, and like I said, on the back of the camera, there is a small screw that just connects the V-mount plate to the cheese plate on top and makes it really, really secure so it's not going anywhere. So there's that, and then here, battery, and there you go. So that's the camera so far with the V-mount plate, cheese plate, side plate, base plate, stock handle, and monitor mounted to the back. So far, like I said, this camera is just so compact that I've added so much to this already, and it's barely bigger than what it was before. The biggest component is the battery on the back. So I'm just gonna really quickly pop on my 77mm to 82mm step-up ring, and then the 82mm ring for the Tilta Mirage matte box. I'm just gonna throw it on now because it's really easy to put on and it doesn't really contribute too much to the build. I just really like it for shooting outside when there's a lot of flaring. I can add the hood to the top if I need to prevent some of that hazing that can happen when light gets toward the edge of the lens. And I just like it with this 16 to 35 in particular because Rarely do I shoot at, 16, but when you push in just a little bit, you don't see the matte box. And then, like I said, it's a power zoom, so you don't really ever need to like have the lens go telescope at all. So it can be mounted to the 15mm rods if you want it to be. Typically my lenses have follow focus gears, and I will leave the Tilta mini follow focus on most of my rig setups just because I like having the option of manual. I almost exclusively use the Sony autofocus lenses, but when I do mount something that requires manual focus, I like having the follow focus just on my camera already. And then also if I'm using autofocus in like a very low contrast environment, or if I'm using it on a telephoto that needs like really precise focusing or something like that, I do like having the option of using a little follow focus. So yeah, now I'm just gonna mount the Ninja 5 to the top of the stock handle that comes with the FX6. It is a hot shoe mount, cold shoe mount situation, and it's fine. It's not a huge deal. It's not like the most secure, but so far I haven't had any issues with reliability of the mount. This SmallRig cold shoe mount that I have allows you to use an Allen key to really kind of crank down on it a little bit. I don't go too hard just because it is one of the Sony, I think, digital hot shoe mounts, so I don't want to mess it up. But so far, when you just give it a little bit of tension on top of that, it seems really secure. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I haven't had it drift at all or anything. Okay, so the last thing, or the last two things, is again the ECM microphone connects to this. Again, built-in cable management, so it just kind of sits there on the side like that. I don't know if you can see the cable, but I'll add a shot of it. Yeah, and then also one other thing I like to add for backup audio if I need it is the Go 2 wireless by Rode. It's a really great little wireless lavalier, mic transmitter. And I put it in the cold shoe mount that is on this side plate that comes with the Tilta cage. And it's like it was made for it. It's like it's so satisfying to put in there. So that's how it sits on the side of the camera. I'll do some close-ups too so you can see that. But yeah, super solid. And then on the bottom, the last thing that needs to go on is the what I have here is the Tilta lightweight Dovetail with a Manfrotto quick release plate on the bottom. And I just use that because I use a Manfrotto fluid head. It slides into the bottom, and I like to align it with my 12-inch 15mm rods. It puts the quick release in a pretty good spot, and then I just friction mount it or lock it in place, and there you go. One thing I added a couple days ago that I haven't mentioned yet is a small NATO rail that goes into these 1/4-20 mounts on top of the Sony handle. I like it because I feel like you can never have enough like mount points for any type of accessory, especially when you're shooting it with people that might need you to add things to your camera last minute, or a location or subject matter might command you to do something that you weren't prepared for. So it's really nice to just have the option to add NATO rails where you think you might need them. NATO rails are like my favorite quick release type for camera rigs. And this one from SmallRig fits perfectly on here and doesn't make the handle too big for me to hold it. So yeah, so this is the FX6 build I have right now with no cables on it. And like I mentioned at the beginning, there are some really great cable management clamps that come with the FX6. And then I added these small sprig loops that go in 1/4-20s so I can connect my HDMI on one side, and then I can also run this Alvin cable 2.1 DC to my Ninja and power it through DTAP on the V-mount on the back. So I'll just show you how I route cables on this really quickly, and then I'll go over the whole build and give some final thoughts. So like I said, this DTAP cable does fit inside the Sony cable management clips that come with it, and some of the coiled cables you can get from like Condor Blue or Atomos for their monitors don't fit in those. So I would just say go with straight cables. If you can get the right length for the FX6, it'll make the rig itself a lot cleaner. And what I do is I run it through the top handle, down the side where it can mount again to a cable management on the cheese plate that I added. And then it goes basically underneath the V mount and connects to the D-tap port on the opposite side of the V mount plate that Tilta has for this camera. So it runs basically from here underneath the handle down the top, which I think you can see, and I'll do some close-ups of it, and then underneath and connects to the D-tap on the other side. And it is, I would say, phenomenally clean. On the FX3, I had a hard time kind of with cable management. I would stuff it kind of between the V-mount plate and the back of the camera and hide it behind the flip out screen. It like worked, it was fine, but the cables are secure, they're not gonna get ripped out. And if I am worried about, you know, even more connection, like I said, I can add SmallRig connectors on this side or a Velcro loop so that I can tie everything together, you know, nice and tidy. So I'm just gonna run my coiled HDMI now from Condor Blue on the other side, and the build will be basically complete. So this is the, I don't know if it's new or not, but this is the 90 degree, I don't know if you can see that, the 90 degree HDMI from Condor Blue. I really like it because I hate when the cable comes straight out from a monitor. It really just drives me nuts. These SmallRig connectors are big enough so that I can run my HDMI cable and my monitor cable through them, which is really nice. And they're pretty secure, so they're not gonna like accidentally slip out or anything. So right now I have it in the back one and it looks still out of place a little bit. So what I then do is just run it to this one. I think I disconnected it a little bit. I run it like that. Now I got it on the SmallRig in the back, SmallRig here on the front of the cheese plate, and I'm gonna go grab a Velcro loop and just connect it right here so then you can see that it's fully out of the way. So this Velcro loop isn't, you know, for a camera specifically. It just came with my XLR cable that I'm using to record this right now. This Velcro loop's a little big, but you get the idea. I have a smaller one somewhere too. But yeah, that's the HDMI on one side. And then I have all my cables on the other side connected in the Sony cable management. I don't think I use any SmallRigs on that side. So yeah, that is the entire build. It's pretty bare bones right now. It's basically just a cage system and some external power and an external monitor. Everything else is pretty much the camera stock. And you really don't need much more than that with this camera. It comes with everything really that you need to start filming right away. I think that the FX6 is a fantastic cinema camera for documentary in particular, just because of the form factor, the I/O it comes with, and the image quality for, you know, the size and price. You know, being able to add external recording, external monitoring, power, upgraded full-size XLR audio, and having a great, you know, handheld option with this handle and the top handle. It just makes for a really robust camera that has like exceptional image quality and functionality. Like I said, I don't really use gimbals or anything like that, but if I do ever get to a point where I'd like to run a gimbal in the future, I know that this camera will sit really well on one, and I can also use the FX3 if I need to. So the FX3 and the FX6 as a A camera, B camera setup work phenomenally well. In the next couple weeks, I'll probably do a comparison of my FX3 build and my FX6 build. And I will also be doing an in the field kind of review of the FX6 once I get a chance to actually use it on some real world filming. But right now, like I said, I've only had it a few weeks. I've done some test footage with it, but I think I'm gonna go out this week or next week and try to get some stuff filmed in person. So I will upload as soon as that's done, and maybe I'll do a breakdown of my process out in the world. So yeah, that does it for this video. If you have any questions or comments about this build, my FX3 build, or just my general process or filmmaking questions, more than happy to help you wherever you may be at in your journey for becoming a filmmaker. You know, I'm still pretty new to this too. I've only been really doing filmmaking for the past 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. So I'm pretty novice too, but I feel like I love the idea of sharing information across, you know, people so that we can all kind of grow together. So Let me know if you like this video in the comments, and like and subscribe if you want to see more of this stuff. And if you have any suggestions for other things you'd like me to cover, you know, I'm always open to suggestions. So I'm looking forward to talking to you all about, you know, cameras and process. So I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.